Day.
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
Long, 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 long.
Holidays are coming up. We have an awesome show today. We have Dernick joining us. We're going to go over some updates on all different topics, all ranging from Ukraine over to the Middle East, talk a little about the Ebola outbreak. We also have Jamal coming on all the way from the California side, Pacific. He'll be joining us the second half of the show. And we're also going to take some callers here at Republic Broadcasting Network, so you can call the station at 800-313-9443. Again, that's 800-313-9443. We'll take some callers on the second half of the show. We're going to be talking about manic depression and natural remedies for that. And also, if there's any Asian listeners out there, I want to hear from some Asian listeners out there. We got a lot of stuff going on in Hong Kong, protests going off. I visited Hong Kong myself, and China is going off right now with protests, lots of things going on. So any Asian listeners out there, give us a call. Tell us what your support is or isn't for what's going on with the protests in Hong Kong. We've had a lot of visitors from Hong Kong on the website the last 24, 48 hours, so we'd like to hear from you. Again, call the station, 800-313-9443. And with that, going to go over some topics of news today. So an awesome article on a website, thespiritscience.net. Great website for some news and articles on sort of more esoteric topics, outside-the-box topics. But this one off three celebrities who used their stardom for conscious awakening. And the first one is Russell Brand. If you don't know him, you've probably seen Russell Brand being a total badass over the past few years, reminding the world that's what's really going on, and spitting out some spiritual truths. We also have Joe Rogan, one of my personal favorites on the list, the top 2. Remember your host from the Fear Factor? Well, Joe Rogan's been on the circuit for a minute talking about some real truth. He's got an awesome podcast. Check out some of his videos online. He's got a great video called What is Reality? So check that out on YouTube. And also, number 3 on the list, we have Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, I've seen some of his amazing speeches. Check out his YouTube video, Jim Carrey on Awakening. And he is just kicking some amazing truth as well. And I mean by truth, I mean the truth of who we are as these multi-dimensional galactic beings, humans, and really why we're here. We're all here to help each other for a purpose, to be of service, and all this chaotic nonsense that's going on around the planet can easily change. We're going to talk about ways how. And I say easily in the lightest context, but we're going to talk about that a little later in the show. And one more article real quick before we bring Mr. Dernick on, talking about in the Afghan side of things, the Afghan government signs a new deal to keep 10,000 U.S. troops there. We've been there for over 10 years now, and when we talk about Afghanistan, everyone thinks it's about the Taliban and this and that. It's really, what we're talking about is opium, opium population over there. Over 95% of the world's opium is coming from Afghanistan. And who's the biggest consumers of opiates and pills and drugs? Well, the American people. We talked about that yesterday on the show. How many Americans are actually on antidepressants, painkillers, all different types of drugs like that. So it's not just by chance we're over there in Afghanistan. It happens to be the largest population of poppy coming out of there. Also in Mexico, real quick article, over 50 students missing after police violence in Guajardo there. Lots of stuff going on in Mexico. And again, all these things are just to be aware of and spread awareness about. Lots of things happening in Hong Kong with the revolutions going off there, the protests going off, and just, all over the planet. So with that, we're going to bring on Ryan Dernick to talk about some latest in Earth changes and things like that. Ryan, how's everything going this morning? How you doing?
Very well, Jonah. How you doing?
Doing good. Lots of stuff, lots of news going on. So jump on into it. What's going on with Mother Earth today with Gaia? What's going on with some Earth changes?
Most definitely. Well, Earth's magnetic fields are unsettled, and they're causing polar skies to turn green for a third time. The northern lights have been really active in the northern latitudes, and there's some really great pictures out of Sweden if you Google that. In regards to solar activity, that is totally correlated to northern lights or the southern lights. There are a chance of solar flares directed towards the Earth. Mainly AR2175, which is the most potent of the whole grouping. There's 4 areas to watch, but that's the most prominent field, which basically is conducive for an X-class solar flare. So that's why they're giving it a 20 to 30% chance of an X-class flare over the next 24 hours facing Earth, and about a 60 to 70% chance of an M flare. And basically another sunspot area of interest is AR2177, because it is also turning toward Earth, and basically the sunspot has the greatest potential to produce an X-class flare besides AR2175. In regards to other news, aside from the earthquake that we saw about a week and a half ago in Alaska, which is a 6.2, and it was inland. Before that, there was an earthquake about a week before that. So 2 weeks ago, there was a 6.7 in Guam. Other earthquakes that have occurred over the last days have been a 4.1 in just actually today in Kansas, in Harper, Kansas, and we know what that's correlated to. Good old fracking.
Let me guess, fracking.
And so let's pump stuff down 3 miles at the deepest into the earth to see what happens.
And let me just say this for the record one more time, Ryan. Fracking is one of the dumbest things I have ever heard. Whoever thought of piercing the Earth's crust and everything is going to be okay with that is just dumb. Okay?
And also, for real, it's retarded. But then there's another 3.3 as well in Harper, Kansas, probably also related to the fracking in the area. There was a 5.1 in Papua New Guinea, which was naturally occurring because that is the Ring of Fire. In Tonga, there was a 4.8. In Indonesia and Amahai, there was a 4.6. In Colorado, 0.9. Alpine, Alaska, saw a 3.4. There was a 3.3 in Oklahoma and a 3.5 in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma actually is the front runner. It has more earthquakes there now than they do in California. So,
of course, because of the fracking, and when we all know that these fracking is not just here in the U.S., but it is all over the world. No. And for people that don't know about fracking, need to do their research and homework on that stuff. Because how do they do it? They don't just drill down. They drill down, and what do? They pump poisonous chemicals so far down to the earth that chemicals crack the Earth's crust. So I can't even imagine the concoction of acids and other poisonous stuff that they came up and cracked the Earth's crust miles beneath the surface. I mean, it's got to be some real bad stuff.
Unbelievable. And then in regards to the unfortunate eruption that occurred on 27th on Saturday in the morning in Japan on Taki, which now is claimed up to 36 lives. Unfortunately, yesterday at one point they weren't able to go on the mountain anymore and to retrieve victims because the gases got so there were so many gases in the air that the noxious fumes that it was not safe for emergency personnel and rescue personnel to go into the areas.
Ryan, hold on right there. We'll talk more about Japan when we get back. I'll take a quick commercial break. We'll cover some more news. I want to touch on ISIS and a couple more things with Ukraine and Russia when we get back. Starseed Radio, and good morning to the world. We're joined by Ryan Dernick. We're talking about some news, weathers, and updates, but also want to give a shout out to StarseedRadio.com. Check us out. We got Ryan's post up there, all his posts on his Twitter feed. We got the Starseed Twitter feed, and we also got our newest product that we're getting out to the world, the Shungite. Check out StarseedTechnologies.com, or also check out Starseed Radio for the Shungite. Now, this amazing mineral, and you can email me personally through Facebook or anything else, this mineral, I believe, is a mineral that is literally going to help transform the world. And there's many, many, many reasons why, which we're not going to get into now because we're going over the news and updates with Ryan. But just check everything out and do some homework on Shungite, S-H-U-N-G-I-T-E, Shungite. Check it out. We sell it on our site, and there's many reasons why we sell it and many reasons why I'm talking about it. We had Dr. Richard Allen Miller talk about the importance of these C60 fullerenes yesterday on the show. It was an awesome show. So with that, we were talking about some news and weather updates, Ryan, before the break. But let's jump into the Ebola outbreak, because that's something that I watched on Vice News last night and watched some reports on.
And they're really doing a good job of keeping it under wraps. There's three countries, there's three nations basically in Africa that are really afflicted right now, and basically there's a lockdown in those three areas. And what's happened is that they had this rapid response with this vaccine that came out of left field, and GlaxoSmithKline, a pharmaceutical or a medical company, comes out and say, "Hey, we got this vaccine. You have to do so many beta tests for vaccine. Nonetheless, you know you're going to have problems with the vaccine." And even the specialist from the National Institute for Allergies and Disease Prevention and Control, Fauci, says that basically it's an inadequate response right now to the controlling Ebola on a global level. And it's funny, he says that 2 days ago, and then what do you have? Now in Dallas, CBS Local comes out and says, "Oh, we got a case possible. We're evaluating a possible Ebola exposure in northern Texas." So we got an individual, a patient that possibly has contracted Ebola, and there's no real connection so far that they have any connection to being in Africa at any time recently. So there is a possibility for a pandemic. That's the worry. And then on top of that, the CDC has said that there's a respiratory illnesses. There are up to 277 confirmed cases in 40 states. And that's a side note. That's the EVG68 and Enterovirus.
And let me just say something, because I watched this and I posted this. All the listeners out there, check my Twitter feed. I posted this video last night from Vice TV, which is an amazing news network. And what they showed when they were on the ground in Sierra Leone and some of these places out there was the hospitals. When people are bringing them to the hospitals, there's no room to treat the victims. They're turning the doctors, the hospitals, are turning people away with the Ebola because there's no room. And what are they doing? They're going right back into the community. So they're talking about
that's
we're not containing anything.
Yeah, CDC keeps upping. Well, maybe by December we'll 500,000, maybe 750,000. Now they're saying maybe by December now 1.4 million will be afflicted with Ebola. So it's definitely cause for worry, and that's why you have all these specialists saying we're not doing enough to keep this under wraps. You can't just send troops to keep it under wraps. And other news, you have a lot of the protests going on in Hong Kong, and basically it's over the fact that certain people can't participate in the election.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. We heard enough about the Ebola. Be aware of the Ebola outbreak. Try to do what you can, spread awareness about it.
Yeah.
Try to stay clean and cleanse. Even the Shungite stones, help purify water, things like that. So there's many remedies and things you could do. Be aware. Hong Kong. What's popping off in Hong Kong?
These demonstrations began in response to China's decision that they're only going to allow only Beijing-vetted candidates to stand in the city's 2017 election for the top civil positions of chief executive. And the protesters say Beijing has gone back on its pledge that they originally said that was going to allow suffrage in Hong Kong, which was promised as a high degree of autonomy. And it was handed back to China and Britain back in 1987. So they basically reneged when they handed back China, Britain in 1987. They countered everything, and they're like, no, actually,
that doesn't sound like a communist move, does it, Ryan? Would a communist country do something like that?
No. No totalitarian aspect of any country would ever impose on its people to say that you can't be based upon some rules that they had previously.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
And that was sarcastic, Phil. For us,
absolutely. For the listeners out there, that's very sarcastic. Yeah. So, not just that, but we see totalitarian dictatorship here in the U.S. as well. Let's not be mistaken here. We have Mr. Obama. We could add him to our list of people that just plain out suck. But on to other news. You got Ukraine and Russia popping off right now. Okay, so we got Hong Kong's going off. We got protests going on. Now let's move to Ukraine and Russia. What's going on with Ukraine and Russia?
Well, they had a ceasefire, and then they renewed the fighting around the airport. So deadly fighting has again broken out between government rebels around the strategically important airport outside Donetsk, and continuing source of friction is this area. So unfortunately, 9 Ukrainian soldiers and 3 civilians were killed during this heavy shelling that occurred on this past Sunday. And government officials announced, Andriy Lesenko, an army spokesman, said 7 soldiers died when a tank shell hit their troop transport, and it was the deadliest attack since the ceasefire was announced on September 5th. So,
and I saw a video last night in Ukraine. The Ukraine army is getting decimated. There's no order.
Yeah.
All their APCs, all their tanks are destroyed. And Russia, this is like the greatest secret war. Russia sends in their troops with no badges on, no markings of who they are. They're all like in black fatigues, like mercenaries. And Russia's like, we don't know who these soldiers are, right? But they have all the artillery, they have all the Russian tanks and all the Russian guns. But Russia,
exactly,
like,
it's a shadow operation.
Come on.
Well, they learn from the best, like. If you look at it globally, like America does the same thing. We have mercenaries. We go in. We destabilize countries, or we keep them safe. However you want to look at that.
Well, let's talk about what happened the first week in Russia. They came in, not a shot was fired. Russia came across the Crimean Peninsula. 30,000 troops. They surrounded all the army barracks. They surrounded everything. Not one shot was fired because it was just, surprise attack overnight. And within the first week, they basically took over the entire peninsula, took over everything. And then Russia was like, don't know who these people are. But then Putin flies to the Crimean Peninsula and says a victory like George Bush on the aircraft carrier. Oh, yeah, we won in Iraq.
Exactly.
That's what Putin did. But yet he's denying to the world, I don't know who these soldiers are. I don't know.
Exactly, but it's saber rattling on either side, and there's 2 different perspectives. You look at it objectively. Everyone has a different perspective, whether you're Russian and whether you're the BRICS. You have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and they're forming their own world banking system, which is countering the IMF, International Monetary Fund, world banking system. You could say of the westernized world, and so there is going to be a breakaway, I think, currency-wise, which is what a lot of analysts have said over time, that you're going to see a breakaway and other currencies will become a reserve currency for the world. And that's why now, more than ever, just in the last couple of days, the parts of BRICS, that conglomerate of countries, has said that they may put their faith in the world currency for them being the renminbi. So you're seeing these movements, and if you look at it, you could see what the writings on the wall. And the weirdest thing to end the note with, economically speaking, back home, the front runner right now for our economy increasing, getting better, is deja vu. It's mortgage lending for housing.
Of course.
The same thing that we got into.
Big enough. The bubble didn't pop big enough, so they're gonna inflate the bubble one more time and just ram it up the American people's butts because we didn't learn hard enough the first time. I can't believe the inflation that's going on right now with the market. You're right. That's a big story. People need to look into that. And even in a bigger inflation in the market, student loans, brother. Student loans are more damaging and inflating than the mortgage bubble itself. Look into that. I believe the last number was like in the trillions. So in 10 years, when these students have no way to pay these student loans because the return ratio and pay ratio on these student loans is horrible to begin with, it's a disaster. So with that, Ryan, thanks again for coming on the show. Always check out bellwetherpost.com. Welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio, and we are broadcasting live at our new time slot, which is 7 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. No more Saturday night broadcasts. We are doing it live and Pacific time, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time, and it's amazing new time slots. So we're really excited. We're now being downloaded in 162 countries in iTunes. We picked up one more country last week, and it's just amazing, all the listeners and everyone out there. We also have our new Windows app. So again, check out starseedradio.com. There's all sorts of news and updates, live feeds, live trackers from people over the world, lots of new videos, music, all sorts of cool stuff on there to spread awareness about. We've been playing DJ Gon's mix all night, and I always have different spiritual, enlightened music artists on the show because the music is really a tool, if you will, to raising people's awareness and consciousness. Hear about all this news about the wars and Ebola outbreaks and all this stuff and all the horrible stuff. People get overwhelmed, and that's why a lot of people shut down. They go into the fear mode. They get overwhelmed with things. They just want to look right ahead. Either that, or they're just so busy with work and school and kids, and the system has them so tied down that they don't even have any breathing room to look at anything else. And that's the reality of what's going on. So how to stop it all, and I said this earlier in the show, how to stop it all, and I don't say this lightly, let me explain. It's simple but not simple. It's simple in the sense of there's something called the 100th monkey effect. It's an actual, not just an experiment, but a entire study that's been done. Google it, check it out, the 100th monkey effect. Check that out, and that's what we're going for. Meaning that we're going for to raise enough awareness and consciousness with enough people that we tip the iceberg to where the 100th monkey, humanity, understands and gets the kind of stuff we talk about in the show, which is not killing each other, doing things, respectfully, honoring the planet, things like that. We're now joined by DJ Gon, who's joining us from Asheville, North Carolina, my last hometown before Costa Rica. And with that, Ryan, thanks for coming on the show. How's it going?
Going great.
Excellent. So your music, we've been playing it throughout the show and your mixes, and talk a little bit about how you feel electronic music is really transforming people's lives in terms of festivals and what's going on, and what do you see on the scene?
Well, what I've noticed is how sampling has become brought into our culture, and reconnecting with other people using samples or any type of sounds in general, whether it's nature, somebody speaking, has been infused with this live kind of sound that's always been there. It's been brought, by the Grateful Dead and, vibrating certain frequencies inside people. But with electronic music, I think that the fusion where hip-hop, you started using original samples and stuff, has kind of been intertwined naturally into the electronic music. And, of course, it's fused with transformation festivals where you have bands that are now like electronic fusion bands. So that's kind of how I feel like electronic music has been, comes being a part of it, as well as how like Ravi Shankar, started teaching the Beatles, and then Eastern culture started intertwining into our culture, and now at these transformation festivals, people are utilizing Eastern samples in their music to help, kind of re-vibrate those everything inside of people, and resonate better with them.
Absolutely, and that's what's so key about what you said. The frequencies, the tones actually activate. It's healing. It does stuff to our body genetically. The DNA responds to it. Arpeggio tones, the frequencies, harmonics.
Yeah, it's very ancient, it just brings in an instinct in us that we can better connect with our planet and understand what her needs, and us balance each other out.
Absolutely, and you as a DJ, music is like, that's your mission, that's your part to play on raising the planet's frequency, raising your own frequency and putting out these tones and frequencies that come from a pure intent, which is why you do DJing, to make people happy because you love the music. You want to bring that expression to as many people as you want. So with that,
Absolutely.
DJ Gone Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the show. Give out your SoundCloud information so people can hear some more of your mixes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's soundcloud.com/GoneOfficial. And we're also, building up a label called the Orbit Frontiers. And, we're just trying to raise awareness, to everybody and get everybody together for the music. Exclude the money, exclude the egos, everything. It's all about us coming one together. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll have you back on the show. We'll be playing your music today's show and a little bit throughout the week. And keep pumping that positive electronic music frequency to the airwaves, brother. So thanks so much, Ryan. We'll have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thank you. I look forward to it. Have a good one.
Have a good day, too. And with that, we're going to jump to our next guest. We have Jamal, who's joining us from the good Pacific coast of California, talking about a really important hot topic, manic depression. So many star children, so many people in general, so many people in the population suffer from this, and there's lots of ways to battle it in terms of doing natural remedies, medicines, pick what you will, but lots and lots of good ways to deal with this. It's not popping pills that you see on TV and popping pharmaceuticals, not the way to go. With that, Jamal, thanks for coming on the show. How you feeling this morning?
Hello, brother. Blessed, man. Today is the Festival of Courage at my son's school, so we've got most of Sebastopol wearing the color red to honor our ancestors and the courage that they exhibited to get us here on this planet. So, with that, I want to start with a quote from a Siberian elder who said, "If you don't know the trees, you may be lost in the forest, but if you don't know the stories, you may be lost in life." And that's very poignant with this subject, because this issue of manic depression, which affects so many of us, especially really brilliant minds that have a lot of art to give to the world but may not be able to access it fully. These stories that we tell ourselves inside of our minds are what can either propel us forward or atrophy us and hold us back. And so that's something that I've been looking at and exploring with myself, and seeing how to inspire those around me who also struggle with that.
And everybody at some point suffers from some sort of, depression, whether it be manic or someone passes away or something like that. I mean, this is normal in today's society. Look at just how it is just to keep people paycheck to paycheck and locked down and working. And, it's like, that's depressing, because people know internally in your gut, in your core, that is not why we're here on this planet, to work 9 to 5, back and forth. People know that, and that depresses them, because their core being, their gut instinct is telling them, go paint something, go outside, go to the beach, do something creative, express yourself. Why Burning Man is so important to the planet, and festivals like that are so important to the planet, because people can go there and express themselves.
Well, they give us in these festivals and these events like Burning Man, the Boom Festival in Portugal, Envision Festival in Costa Rica, something that I've been attending the past few. These are sacred rituals which our ancestors had long past, before the church and before the political regime separated people. There were rituals and festivals and ceremonies that Starseed nations came together and initiated the youth into the culture and into their environment with music and song and dance and art, activity and ceremony and food. And that got lost somewhere along the way when the Industrial Revolution and, the church decided to put moratoriums on shamanic experience. And so as a result, the time sped up on the outside, but on the inside, how we viewed ourselves and the stories that we told ourselves, comparing ourselves to what society was expecting of us and what our family was expecting of us and what this new superficial culture was expecting of us, it depresses the mind and it stresses us out, because there's no space to really be a free-spirited superhero along with other beings co-creating. It's all, what am I doing personally and how much money am I?
Exactly, and you said it, and I don't think it's really the Industrial Revolution really added to it for sure, but I think that we all know that this is more of a master plan by the elite, by more of darker forces that don't want humanity to be creative, that have enslaved humanity in many ways, like religion, organized religion, things like that, where it really, like you said, it gets people out of themselves. That's the greatest secret they don't want everybody to know, is every single human on this planet is just as powerful as the man or woman next to you. Everyone can manifest, everybody can create.
And, something what calls to mind is a quote from a very famous mystic and a man who dealt with some depressive issues and had to actually leave his country as a result in order to create something. He said, "One good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. So hit me with music, brutalize me with music." So the musical aspect of brain.
Well, hold on right there, because you just brought some music on the airwaves. We got to take a quick commercial break, so that was perfect timing, Jamal. So we'll be right back. And any listeners, 800-313-9443, give us a call, ask a question. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Starseed Radio. And again, any listeners out there, we're going to try to take a call, 800-313-9443. We're talking about manic depression with Jamal from California, talking about different ways to not just battle it, but to cope with it in spiritual and intentful ways, and ways that is natural. One of the things we've been talking about is the stone shungite, and I've talked to Jamal about it. Many people, shungite, man. Shungite has been known to stop the growth of AIDS, stop the growth of cancer. These are natural minerals, natural medicines here on the planet for us to help heal things. Purifying water. Check out StarseedRadio.com. Check out StarseedTechnologies.com. This stuff is real. Google it. Search it out for yourself. Now, Jamal, when we're talking about manic depression, let's jump into the music aspect of where do you see electronic music falling into this manic depression?
Well, I want to give a quote from Albert Einstein when he was asked about his theory of relativity. He said, "It occurred to me by intuition, and music was the driving force behind that intuition. My discovery was the result of musical perception." So, going to your shungite, to what you just spoke about with these minerals, I had on a beautiful shungite necklace you gave me as I was listening to Opio and Mark Farina.
Nice,
and,
yes.
And my boy Lafa Taylor out at Shambhala Music Fest in the middle of the forest. It was just a beautiful galactic family of people there at Shambhala Fest. And the energy that I felt going through my mitochondrial DNA and my nucleic DNA, activating some amazing projects, which I can't talk about now, but if you want to see them in full force, you need to go to the Envision Festival in Costa Rica next year. There's some cosmic awakenings that are happening through the electronic music scene, and with indigenous tribes being honored in music from Tribe Called Red, from Earthrise Sound System, from Geology, from David Gaeta, you know what I'm saying? From
Desert Dwellers, Beats Antique, Medicine for the People. I mean, you got it. The list goes on.
These musicians are part of a beautiful DNA-like strand that's being activated, which is taking the old and the indigenous and the sacred and putting it together with the cosmic. And it's basically the rebooting of our genetic computers through this music. I really feel that the shamanic perspective, plant medicine. Listen, I've done 18 journeys on the sacred mother plant over the past year. What that has allowed me to transcend in my own internal mind state, the depression that I was dealing with the loss of a relationship, with several other situations that hit me, whereas in the past would have like taken months, weeks for me to get out of my own room and out of my own head and really get out into the world and explore it. That medicine, that plant medicine, it's just like the shungite. It's just like the minerals that are here on this planet. Everything that we need is here on this pharmacy, the goddess Earth. And all we have to do is tap in.
You said it. That's it. The pharmacy. It's like when you talk about the indigenous, the shamans, when they're deforesting the forest, they know what they're doing. They're killing the indigenous. They're killing the wisdom and the knowledge because they know, the elite I'm talking about, they know that knowledge, ancient knowledge, can cure everything. HIV, Ebola, cancer, you name it. The shamans know how to cure it. The forest, the plants, they know how to cure it. That's why they're there. There's nothing we cannot cure naturally. And the whole thing with the cancer rate and everything, it's man-made. It's the chemtrails, it's the GMOs, it's the fluoride, it's everything they're poisonous with, man. And the only way that's going to stop is by you, Jedi Mal, and me talking about it and spreading awareness. And if people say, oh, chemtrails are crazy, or, oh yeah, do some research, like just wake up already. The writing's on the wall. People need to really wake up and stand together. That's the only way this stuff is going to stop, is if all of us stand together, united. That's how the conscience will raise for everybody, is when enough of us stand together.
And for us to create communities such as the Starseed Society, there's a beautiful community I'm a part of down in Costa Rica. People can check it out. It's posadanatura.com. POSADANATURA.com. Sacred medicine journeys that take place there, especially the ones both before and after the Envision Festival next year, are going to be part of the reawakening of mitochondrial DNA that has been depressed as a result of the stress that this civilization has put on the psyche. One of the things that Albert Einstein dealt with is this depression and stress from this Eurocentric Germanic academia that didn't deem him worthy enough for a doctorate or for learning, because his whole thesis was, what was God thinking when he created light? And you heard the quote. He came to that question through music. So it's the music, it's the plant medicine, CBDs, what is happening with this beautiful plant medicine, the marijuana plant, and CBDs and ayahuasca and iboga, until people have the courage to stand up like their ancestors and experience the shamanic state and go through the darkness that was passed on to you that our ancestors didn't feel like dealing with, and they put it in a box and they handed it to us in our DNA, and we wake up on this medicine and we say, you know what? This is not us. We can transcend all the fear and the haunted house, and we can go through it and realize that it's not real.
And Jamal, to keep it real to all the listeners out there, when we're talking about this, like, you've walked. I have walked the walk. I have been through some darkness, man. I've been arrested 11 times. I am no angel myself, and you know what I'm saying? And I've been through that darkness. I've been homeless on the streets. I have been there. So when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm not just passionate. I've been there from experience, and so have you. And that's why the guests I have on the show and you have on the show are coming from that real experience. We've seen that darkness. Now we want to put out that light, because we don't want anyone to experience that. And that's across the board.
And I went through a deep depression. I left the Jehovah's Witnesses after 29 years of the indoctrination of that paradigm. And it's taking me 14 years to realize that though that was a part of my upbringing, and though it led to me checking myself into a mental hospital in Berkeley, I have community, I have friends, I have a divine connection with God that does not need to be dictated by someone else or by another organization. That personal lifeline is like Tribe Called Quest said, the inner sound law. And that's what you tap into. But you have to go through that darkness. I've been through some dark. I've spent 2 months in prison. I've spent time away from family and civilization and society and no one at all for weeks and weeks at a time because of the darkness. realize that is in our DNA. We got to open that box. We got to clean it out, and we got to move forward and lighten, man. Lighten our load, right. You know.
And I myself was in a facility for 40 months, 3.5 years, locked away, and we've experienced it. So when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking from experience, from light. That this is the time we need to band together and really stand and get the information out. Knowledge is power. You just got to talk about it. Get out of the fear.
Speaking of that, I want to offer people the opportunity to look up this beautiful book I have in my hand. It's called The Trickster Brain: Neuroscience, Evolution, and Narrative by David Williams. We all have a trickster inside of us, and that trickster beckons us to be an artist, a musician, someone who can create a new world and new society. Abracadabra. In Kabbalah, it means as I speak, I best. This is the time for heart's desire. This is the time for us to focus on the positive and of the unlimited starseed potential of our nature.
Yes. Jamal, we got to end right there. Jamal, thanks again for coming on. This is the Spirit Chill section of the show, invented by Jamal himself. We're going to have you on next week. Let's talk about the marijuana aspect. That is a huge topic and outlook in itself. So again, check out StarseedRadio.com for the latest news and updates. Jamal, thanks for coming on. Have an amazing day, brother.
God bless.
And that wraps it up for the show.
We'll be right back.